Hi, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming with Kat. Now, today I want to talk about what it's like living alone and making that transition between growing up and living in your family's home to living on your own and in your own place by yourself. Now, a lot of us are excited over the freedom that gives, but that's not the only adjustment that we need to make when we live alone. Before you move out, you often have a picture in your mind on what it's going to be like. The freedom that you have, the newfound independence that it brings, that you could do whatever you want, whenever you want. You're fully and officially responsible for yourself. And it's exciting. And then you finally have your own space. You finally move in, and then you start thinking, freedom feels different when you didn't consider all the responsibilities that now you have to deal with. And so I want to talk about that contrast, that part of the independence of moving out that doesn't get talked about enough. The contrast of, yes, you have your freedom, but you're responsible for the bills. You're responsible for your home upkeep. You're responsible for feeding yourself. Those are things where you didn't necessarily have to think about before because someone else was handling them most of the time. And that contrast can hit you because unlike when you were living at home, you might have had a few chores, but now everything is on you. And then another thing that's interesting when you live on your own is how quiet it can feel. Freedom, it's amazing, but you don't realize when you're living with your family or when you're on campus and you're living in dorms, even if you have your own room, your own space, there are plenty of opportunities for interaction, for annoyance from your family members, or for casual conversations in the hallways of your dormitory. When you're in your own space, you don't necessarily have that. You can leave your bedroom and your living room is still empty. You can go to the bathroom, go to the kitchen, anywhere in your own space, and it's just you. And it's quiet. And the quiet isn't something that is so obvious necessarily in the daytime because you might hear traffic outside or your neighbors playing music loudly and you hear the bass or they're checking their mail. But it's in the evening times when things are winding down, when it's quieter in the world. There's no chance to walk and come into contact with your siblings, wind down and watch a movie with them. The quietness it just feels louder. It's not a bad thing, but it's also something else, a contrast that doesn't get talked about a lot when we talk about that first initial awareness of living on your own. And that's what I'm trying to clarify. I wish someone had told me this or talked about this when I was going through that transition of moving out, having my own space. The freedom, I do not regret it, but it's the expectation and the small things that you don't realize. Having your own room does not equal living on your own. College is not the same as full independence. You see, before there was shared responsibility, and now you have full ownership of yourself. And that contrast is something to be aware of when you step into that next stage of independence in your life, of adulthood. Because I feel like when we're thinking about getting our own space, we're comparing it as much as we can to those small moments of independence that we have without really thinking about what it fully means, the responsibility of it all, the quiet that can come with it. When you do first make that step, there's going to be a transition because it's something new. And I want you to be aware of that contrast, because if you're not understanding that and going into it with a certain expectation, that adjustment might be a little bit more rough. You might be wondering, oh, why is this not what I expected? Or you might be totally fine. It honestly all depends on you, but it's just something to be aware of. Some people, I've had friends who felt a little bit lonely because you're used to being in a household filled with noise and annoying siblings, and then you go into quietness with just yourself. Some people, they thrive. They're like, yeah, I'm fine. Love my space. Some people, it's an adjustment. They might miss it at first, how they previously lived, but they slowly build something of their own, something that they're comfortable with. And I want to stress, it's not that there's anything bad. Sometimes it could just be different than what you're expecting because you're not thinking about all the components and aspects that goes into that. And as I was reflecting on that aspect of my adulthood, I realized that that too is part of your becoming, adjusting to a new level of independence and learning how to sit with both freedom and responsibility. So I'm curious, have you felt this after you moved out? And if you're about to move out, make sure you keep this in mind. If you're living on your own for the first time, what part of that transition surprised you the most? Was it the quiet? Was it the responsibility? Or something else altogether? If you're in this phase, you're not the only one feeling it. It's completely normal, and we all go through that experience. Living on your own isn't just about having your own space, but it's learning how to be and hold yourself in that space. If you like this episode, remember to follow and subscribe. Please send me a fan mail if you have any topics that you'd like to discuss, if you want to dive a little bit deeper. I do like receiving these fan mails and just hearing how each of my episodes have touched you in your lives and different things that you've reflected on. Also, there is a Becoming with Ketney worksheet. Go grab it. It's completely free. It goes along with any of my podcast episodes. And it just really helps you to reflect while you're on this journey of becoming wherever you're at. All right. Until next time. Thank you. Bye.